Hey YouTube, today I'm going to do a video on stuff that's been covered about 1,000,000 times on the internet, but I'm going to put my little spin on it. I'm going to show you some things to look for to see if a Rolex watch is authentic. Now, there's a lot of variables that go into this, and these counterfeits are getting better and better by the day. But if you don't feel comfortable looking at a watch and you're not trained and you're going to go buy a watch secondhand, don't do it, folks. If the deal's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. I've been around these watches a very long time, and it's going to be very hard to fool me, but there are some out there that could probably do it. So my recommendation is to take the watch and get it authenticated by a true watchmaker that really knows what they're looking at. Have them open up the back and everything, and make sure what you're getting is what you're paying for. But what I can do is I'm just going to give you a couple pointers for things to look at that will throw red flags up. Maybe you can skip the trip. So what we're looking at here, we're going to be mainly focusing on these new sport watches, and this is a Rolex 116610LN. This is a ceramic version. It came out after 2011. They changed over to the super case and the ceramic bezel. So we're going to pick this watch up here and we're going to start looking at a couple things on it. Now, one of the things you always look at to begin with is a Rolex watch will always be perfect. And if you look at any of the font on it or anything like that, I'm going to see if I can get it to come close in. There should be no mistakes under any kind of magnification or anything. There'll be no washout marks or anything on the font. The font will be perfect on it. One of the other things you can look at is this bezel here. On this particular model here, this is a platinum inlay on a ceramic bezel. And if you look at it under magnification, the lines will be very sharp around the edges or anything, and there won't be any paint. If there's any fading on this thing or anything like that, it's probably going to be a counterfeit watch, because this watch was designed with them in mind that it will not fade over time like the older aluminum bezel ones were. One of the other things you can look for is crowding here on this case around the crown. If you cannot get your fingers on this and this case crowds this crown, it's a no-go, folks. Don't look for it. Another thing you can look for is on the back of this watch. On all Rolex watches here, you're never going to see anything engraved on here unless it's like somebody's name that they added onto it or something like that. Rolex didn't put any kind of markings or anything on the back. It's always going to be a blank case. So just keep that in mind, folks. One of the true signs I've never seen a counterfeit do, and I could be wrong here, is this cyclops here for the date. Now, this is a 2.5 magnified date wheel. So if you look underneath it, it's very small underneath it. It magnifies it to 2.5 times, and it will be completely centered. And the font, there will be no mistakes. There'll be no ink wash over, wash out, or anything like that. And it'll just look perfect. Now, one of the things, I'm going to try and do this on camera, that you can do is Rolex creates what they call the black hole. The way they do this anti-glare stuff and everything, if you look, when I make a glare on this watch, it looks like there's a black hole in the date. It looks like it actually makes a hole in the glass. I've never seen a counterfeit watch do that. A lot of people don't know to look for that. So very interesting. If you'll just look, they call it the Rolex black hole. It's pretty neat, actually. So get a little bit further into it. When you look at a Rolex watch, you're going to unscrew this crown here. And like I said, folks, this is just a guideline. You're going to pull out 2 clicks, and when you advance this watch to the right, it should advance the time. Majority, 99% of the fakes, when you turn it backwards, like you're loosening it, it will actually advance the time. And I don't know why they haven't come up with a way to counterfeit that, but they have it, folks. Another way to do this, another thing to look at is the date on this thing. When you turn this thing and set the date, let me get this the right thing, it will just do positive clicks. See how it just positive clicks and falls into place. It won't overshoot it or anything like that. It'll just click into place. And usually the fakes will start wobbling around and stuff in there, and you'll be able to tell immediately when you work it. When you turn this thing here and you gotta manually wind this thing, if you feel any grittiness or anything like that, if it isn't perfectly smooth, it's probably gonna be a fake, folks. So let's tighten this crown back down and let's work this bezel here on this diver watch. When you turn this thing, it should be very smooth. There shouldn't be any play. See, I can't move this back and forth. And from all the way around, there should be 120 clicks. Listen real close. There should be exactly 120 clicks from all the way around on this diver watch, on this Submariner. That's one thing you can look for on it also. Actually, just the feel of it. If it sits there and wobbles around and rattles and just feels cheap, I mean, if you've ever picked up a true authentic watch, you'll be able to tell the difference immediately. Now, this particular one has what they call a glide lock clasp, and if you work this back and forth, it will work real smooth. If it skips around or anything like that or feels loose, it's not going to be real, folks. It's not going to be real. Just keep that in mind. Look at your engraving here on the actual inside of the bezel. Look at it up real close. Now, this was a little scratched up for being worn because this is a daily wear watch. But any kind of laser engraving or anything like that, it's not going to be real. 100%. When you close this up, it should just hear positive clicks. Shouldn't be anything loose or anything like that. The crown should be perfectly centered. Let me show you this up close. But when you open this thing up, if anything feels funky, if it doesn't work correctly, it's not going to be a real watch. You see this thing just clicks. Nothing hangs up on it or anything like that. But like I said, these are just some guidelines to go through. You know, they mismark stuff. Like this is a diver's watch. It'll have the 3 dots on them. You'll see them put them on other models, and that's not going to be correct, folks. Always look at any kind of mistakes or anything like that. You know, you're gonna know you're dealing with a counterfeit watch. Now, the only way to really tell 100% is to open this watch up and look at the back of the movement, and we're not going to do that today, folks. You don't ever want to open one up unless you 100% have to, or you 100% know what you're doing. But I just thought I'd give you a couple guidelines on what to look for on them. You know, you can look real close at the re-halt. If there's any kind of blurriness or anything, I'm not going to be able to get this to show up real well, but the re-halt here, we'll see Rolex all the way around on it. And one of the things you can look for is where it says Rolex right here, all the numbers on the right will line up with an X. And a lot of people don't know this. And on the right, all of them will line up with the R in Rolex. So all your numerals here will be R's on this side and X's on this side. And a lot of people have never realized that. Now, the serial number will always be on the newer watches. It will be a scrambled serial number. It will always be on the re-halt right down here on the bottom. The older watches, it would be on the inside of the case, and you'd have to remove the bracelet from it. The model number is still over here on the when you remove the bracelet on it, but the serial number is actually written on the re-halt. But like I said, I'm just giving you a couple guidelines to go through and show you like little bulletin points to look at. You know, things have to be perfect. Things have to line up, especially with that date wheel and the font on it. But if you have any questions on this, I'm not an expert on Rolex watches. I've been around them a long time. I can usually spot a counterfeit one fairly easy. I've never been fooled by one or anything like that, but I am by far not a watchmaker or an expert on them. I just thought I'd give you a quick rundown, a couple things to look for with the Rolex watch and see if you can spot a counterfeit one. Anyway, folks, any questions, feel free to ask, and thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.